This evening, Inclusivity National Security Strategy, Priority on Government's Agenda. 18-year-old student drowns at Blue Lake in Carcara, Linden. Sand truck owners and operators to be relocated following complaints and safety concerns. In the region, pro-Bolsonaro rioters storm Brazil's top government offices, and internationally, thousands protest against mine expansion plans in Germany. Welcome to another edition of Channel 2's Headline News Updates. I am Baby Bacchus. Thank you for joining us. Tonight's newscast begins with a tragic story from the capital city. A Leopold Street man was earlier today riddled with bullets at Durban and Smythe Streets during a reported drive-by shooting. The dead man has been identified as Anthony Charles, called Skittle. Up to news time, an official report was not issued by the Guyana Police Force. However, Headline News Update will bring you more on this incident in a subsequent report. Turning to a different but equally heartbreaking story, tragedy struck the mining town of Linden community on January 8th as an 18-year-old student at the Linden Technical Institute allegedly drowned at Blue Lake in Carcara. According to initial reports, Cam Thomas, a Central Amelia's Ward resident in Linden, was swimming at the Blue Lake with 4 friends when the incident occurred. The group included a 20-year-old construction worker, a 15-year-old female student, a 17-year-old student, and a 23-year-old taxi driver, all residents of Linden. According to the 20-year-old construction worker, he and Thomas were swimming from the eastern to the western side of the lake when Thomas suddenly submerged under the water. The man further stated that he attempted to rescue Thomas but was unsuccessful. The incident was promptly reported to the police, who arrived at the scene and made efforts to recover Thomas's body. However, their efforts were futile. Nevertheless, the body was recovered earlier today. At this time, detectives in Linden are investigating the circumstances surrounding Thomas' alleged drowning. Further details about the incident are not yet known. The community of Linden is mourning the loss of Cam Thomas, and our thoughts are with his family and loved ones during this difficult time. In other news, inclusivity and national security are both priorities on the agenda of the government of Guyana, according to the Prime Minister, Brigadier Retired Mark Phillips. Speaking at a stakeholders engagement event, Phillips emphasized the government's commitment to inclusivity and said allegations to the contrary were without merit. He cited the Ministry of Labor's declaration that people with disability should have equal employment and training opportunities, and the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security's effort to eliminate practices that impede equality and equity. Speaking specifically to government contracts, the Prime Minister emphasized that there is no discrimination in the process. He added that the government is looking to embark on a massive plan to allow small contractors to enhance their knowledge of the correct bidding procedure. Prime Minister Phillips also announced that the government is working on a national security strategy to improve the security network in Guyana and address the nation's security issues. He said the Guyana Police Force and the Guyana Defense Force are actively addressing these issues to create a secure environment that will attract investment and reduce societal fears. Let's turn our attention to another story now involving a 58-year-old farmer from Berbice who was arrested at a police roadblock after he was found with over 2,000 grams of cannabis in his possession on Friday, January 6th. The ranks around 6:30 p.m. were on a stop-and-search exercise in front of the Ituni police station when they stopped a Y212 motor car driven by a 34-year-old electrician of Erie Hall, Maikoni, East Coast Demerara, along with 3 passengers. One of the passengers, Compton Joseph Alicock, a 58-year-old farmer of Unamco Junction, Upper Berbice River, was seated in the front seat next to the driver with a pink haversack on the floor of the car between his feet. A police rank at the roadblock told the driver and passenger that he would like to search their persons and belongings, to which they agreed. When officers searched Alicock, they found a bag of cannabis hidden in his pants, and more cannabis was discovered in a haversack belonging to him. Alicock admitted to the officers that he was planning to sell the cannabis to make extra money. Alicock was arrested and escorted to the Ituni police station, where the suspected cannabis was weighed in his presence and amounted to just over 2,000 grams. He is currently in police custody pending further investigations. The other passengers were released after giving statements to the police. Stick around after the break. Sand truck owners and operators to be relocated following complaints and safety concerns. And construction begins on the new $50 million B-Fields to Fire Bridge.
Furnishing your home or office has never been easier. Here at Kissoon's, our inventory of locally made and imported furniture, offered at amazing prices, will leave you wanting more. From vinyl, floor rugs and carpets, bedroom, dining and living room sets, mattresses, pillows, office desk, chairs and filing cabinets, outdoor benches and tables. We have a piece of furniture for every room imaginable in your home or office. Check out our flagship store at Industrial Site Rijnveld or one of our branches in New Amsterdam, Port Morant, Riverton and Camp Street. Kissoon's Furniture, furnishing homes for over 50 years.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Linden's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Linden's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Maison Francois is the chocolate paradise of Guyana. From the moment you enter our stores, you're welcomed by the sweet aroma of Belgian chocolate, pastries, and other artisanal treats handmade by our European-trained chef. However, Maison Francois is more than just chocolate. We serve lunch, dinner, afternoon tea, and even Sunday morning mimosa brunch. Our convenient location at 133 Thomas Street, Kitty, makes it the perfect place to take that special someone or to take home a little sweetness. Treat yourself with the taste of Paris in the heart of Georgetown, only at Maison Francois.
When you need money and you gotta get it fast, Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop is the place for that confidential transaction in a quiet and secure location. You'll get the highest value per pennyweight for your gold and also enjoy the lowest interest rates and longest payback period too. Yes, for that instant transaction to solve a pressing financial problem. That Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, 46 Boyle Place, that's between the Ministry of Housing on Brickdam and White Castle Fish Shop, be your first and only choice. Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, safe and sound, solid and secure, always there for you. Telephone 231-7878 and 223-8955.
Sooner or later you will have another power failure. Are you prepared for the next blackout? Some essential equipment such as security cameras, lights, internet, gate motors, and water pumps may stop working. How can you prevent the next blackout? InverterTech has an affordable solution for you. A strong UPS system which uses the latest inverter and solar battery technology to prevent blackout. We smartly calculate your average power demand so you don't spend more than you need to. Call 223-2233 for more information.
Welcome back. Sand truck owners and operators who plied their trade in the vicinity of DSL Cash and Carry Industrial Site East Bank de Marara Public Road will soon be relocated. It follows talks earlier today with Minister of Public Works Bishop Juan Edgehill, Minister within the Ministry of Public Works Deodat Indar, and the sand truck owners and operators to discuss relocation from their current operating space. The truckers have faced complaints from businesses in the area as well as concerns about the dangers of them operating on the side of the East Bank Road. The outer parking lot of the Ghana National Stadium has been identified as a temporary location for the sand trucks until a more permanent space can be found. A team from the Ministry of Public Works will visit the area to prepare the parking lot for the trucks, and the ministers will also meet with taxi drivers and vendors operating in the area to discuss their relocation. Approximately 15 truck operators and drivers attended the meeting today. In other news, construction has officially begun on the new B Fields of Fire Bridge following the demolition of the old wooden structure known locally as the Blacker Bridge. The new concrete bridge, built by Modern Construction and Trucking Services Limited, is expected to take approximately 3 months to complete and will cost around $50 million. The company has assured that the bridge would be of good quality and completed on the scheduled date. The project was initiated after community visits by government ministers including Kwame McCoy, Deodat Indar, Susan Rodriguez, and Wanage Waldron, who were present at the contract signing in December of 2022. While construction is underway, a temporary bridge has been erected for civilian use. The Bayfield Access Road, which has also been identified as a priority for rehabilitation, is expected to see improvements shortly. Don't go away after the break. Biden makes first visit to US-Mexico border since taking office, and pro-Bolsonaro rioters storm Brazil's top government offices.
Sooner or later you will have another power failure. Are you prepared for the next blackout? Some essential equipment such as security cameras, lights, internet, gate motors, and water pumps may stop working. How can you prevent the next blackout? InverterTech has an affordable solution for you. A strong UPS system which uses the latest inverter and solar battery technology to prevent blackout. We smartly calculate your average power demand so you don't spend more than you need to. Call 223-2233 for more information.
When you need money and you gotta get it fast, Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop is the place for that confidential transaction in a quiet and secure location. You'll get the highest value per pennyweight for your gold and also enjoy the lowest interest rates and longest payback period too. Yes, for that instant transaction to solve a pressing financial problem. That Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, 46 Boyle Place, that's between the Ministry of Housing on Brickdam and White Castle Fish Shop, be your first and only choice. Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, safe and sound, solid and secure, always there for you. Telephone 231-7878 and 223-8955.
Maison Francois is the chocolate paradise of Guyana. From the moment you enter our stores, you're welcomed by the sweet aroma of Belgian chocolate, pastries, and other artisanal treats handmade by our European-trained chef. However, Maison Francois is more than just chocolate. We serve lunch, dinner, afternoon tea, and even Sunday morning mimosa brunch. Our convenient location at 133 Thomas Street, Kitty, makes it the perfect place to take that special someone or to take home a little sweetness. Treat yourself with the taste of Paris in the heart of Georgetown. Only at Maison Francois.
Furnishing your home or office has never been easier. Here at Kissoon's, our inventory of locally made and imported furniture, offered at amazing prices, will leave you wanting more. From vinyl, floor rugs and carpets, bedroom, dining and living room sets, mattresses, pillows, office desk, chairs and filing cabinets, outdoor benches and tables. We have a piece of furniture for every room imaginable in your home or office. Check out our flagship store at Industrial Site Rijnveld or one of our branches in New Amsterdam, Port Morant, Riverton and Camp Street. Kissoon's Furniture, furnishing homes for over 50 years.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Linden's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lenders, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Linden's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Welcome back. Now we'll take a look at what's happening in the region and around the world. Security forces in Brazil say they have regained control of several government buildings. Earlier supporters of the former President Jair Bolsonaro stormed the National Congress, Supreme Court, and the Presidential Palace. Al Jazeera's Monica Yanihu reports.
These were the scenes that many in Brazil had feared for months. Thousands of supporters of former President Jair Bolsonaro storming the heart of government, Congress, the Supreme Court, and the Presidential Palace. Once inside, they ran riot, shattering windows, and destroying furniture. Calls to action had begun on social media the moment the new president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, was sworn in just a week ago. Lula, who was 800 kilometers away in the state of São Paulo, blamed his predecessor for inciting the attack.
Everybody knows that this was encouraged by several speeches made by the former president. He encouraged the invasion of the Supreme Court, of the presidential palace. He encouraged the invasion of the three governmental powers whenever he could. This is also his responsibility. And it's the responsibility of the parties that supported him. All this will be investigated forcefully and very quickly.
Bolsonaro supporters have been camping outside military barracks across Brazil since Lula defeated Bolsonaro in last year's presidential election. They refused to accept the results, making unfounded claims the voting system was rigged and accusing the Supreme Court of bias. For 2 months, they have been calling for military intervention to stop Lula from taking office. When that didn't happen, they took matters into their own hands. Police in Brasilia were slow to act, raising questions about their loyalties. Many members of Brazil's security forces have been strong supporters of Bolsonaro. World leaders have condemned the violence and rallied behind Lula. U.S. President Joe Biden called the attack outrageous and pledged his government's full support. By Sunday evening, security forces had regained control of the buildings, and the federal government will be in charge of security in the capital until the end of the month. But the challenge to the new administration is far from over. Bolsonaro supporters across the country say they'll take to the streets until they topple the government, a promise that is leaving the president's vision of a united Brazil more distant than ever. Monica Yanakiev, Al Jazeera, Rio de Janeiro.
Also in the region, U.S. President Joe Biden stopped at the southern border of the state of Texas on the way to Mexico. It follows the announcement of new rules for asylum seekers, which are meant to deter dangerous and illegal crossings. Al Jazeera's John Hendren reports.
For the first time in his 2 years in office, President Joe Biden landed in the epicenter of the crisis on America's southern border. As he surveyed areas overwhelmed by migrants, Republicans called it too little, too late.
It just so happens he's 2 years and about $20 billion too late. He needs to step up and take swift action.
The president spoke with local, state, and federal leaders and assessed security at the Bridge of the Americas, the busiest border crossing in El Paso, now the center of the migrant crisis.
This is one of the many sights President Biden didn't see. Hundreds of migrants living in the streets throughout El Paso with no end in sight.
Rafael has been sleeping inside a box to protect him from near freezing overnight temperatures, hoping for what American citizens take for granted.
My ultimate goal is to get a work permit so I can do what I came here to do, to work hard. I would ask President Biden to find a solution to this because what we want is work.
He's among hundreds who live indefinitely outdoors, ducking into humanitarian buses for warmth and a phone charge, dining on donated meals, their children playing in the chaos as they do on both sides of the border. At Sacred Heart Catholic Church, Father Rafael Garcia takes in 150 lucky migrants each night. Many of the rest live out here.
They've adjusted, and thanks be to God, it's not too cold right now. The temperatures are not going below freezing the past few days, and forecasted to not go below freezing in the next few days, from what I know. So, the climate is cooperating, but it's still a harsh situation to be on the streets.
Yeah, there needs to be a national solution, right?
A national solution. Yeah, they cannot expect the local government to resolve these problems.
A solution the U.S. government has left undone for decades, even as Biden calls for comprehensive immigration reform. After his first on-the-ground look at the migrant crisis, the president left to meet with the Canadian Prime Minister and the Mexican President in Mexico City, where he hopes to find progress on the border crisis the U.S. hasn't found in Washington. John Hendren, Al Jazeera, El Paso, Texas.
And internationally, thousands of climate activists have gathered at the Garzweiler coal mine in Germany in an effort to stop expansion plans, Al Jazeera's Step Weston reports.
Protesters are digging themselves in, erecting barricades and preparing for a confrontation. Police have started to cordon off Lützenrad, the last remaining village on the edge of the Garzweiler mine, one of Germany's largest lignite mines in the country's most industrialized region. Lignite or brown coal is known to be one of the most polluting forms of coal, and under Lützenrad lies millions of tons of it. The government says it needs the coal to prevent energy shortages. Activists say it violates their climate policies.
It looks good on paper, right, that Germany's going to leave coal by 2030. Actually, it's only the west of Germany up until now. But the thing is, at the same time, they said, okay, we're going to keep more coal power plants running now that they were going to phase out by now. So actually, we're just going to burn the same amount or even more coal in shorter time, which is even worse for the climate.
Climate activists from all over Europe travel to Lützenrad to protest against the expansion. People from all generations called on the government to change its mind. While the original villagers have left, dozens of activists have moved to Lützenrad and built tree houses.
A tiny village that has turned into an international protest site, with hundreds of activists saying they won't follow police orders and leave. A standoff that could possibly turn violent, but also become an embarrassment for the government and its promises to abide by the Paris Agreement.
Climate activists like Johanna Inkerman say the expansion of the mine will mean the 1.5-degree temperature rise globally agreed in Paris won't be feasible.
That's a single room.
That's why she moved to Lützenrad months ago.
Now is the moment to defend this village and to defend climate justice. If we wouldn't stay here, this machinery of destruction that we see just a couple meters behind us would have already razed all this to the ground.
The activists are disappointed with the Greens, who first supported their cause and are now in government, responsible for the expansion. The energy company RWE, who owns the mine, and the authorities in North Rhine-Westphalia declined all requests to comment. The eviction of Lützenrad is expected to start in the next few days, unless protesters can hold their ground and manage to stop it. Step Weston, Al Jazeera, in Lützenrad.
And that is it for today's regional and international news. Here now is your 3-day weather forecast. And that is all for this edition of Channel 2's Headline News Update. Tune in on Tuesday at 7 p.m. for another episode. Be sure to subscribe, like, and follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Until then, please take care of yourself and each other.